family. So today, our verse is from 1 Corinthians 13, 11 through 13. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
For now we see through glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known.
And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity.
No mistakes. When my hopes fade and my dreams die, and I find no answer by asking why, I just keep on trusting and hang on to my faith, because God is just. He never makes mistakes. Should the storms come and trials I must face, when I find no solution, I rest in God's grace. When life seems unfair and more than I can take, I look up to the Father. He never makes mistakes. God sees our struggles and every bend in the road, but no mistake is ever made because He weighs every load.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. Send out an army, find you in the middle of the darkest night. I will rescue you.
My name is Keegan Peters, Washington. Today I will be reading Hebrews 11 verses 18 through 19. Begotten Son, of whom it was said, in Isaac your seed shall be called, concluding that God was able to rise him up, even from the dead, from which he also received him in a figurative sense.
this is faith, then I'm going deeper beneath the weight.
What is faith? Faith is defined as a complete trust or confidence in someone or something, or a strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. One person who showed abundant faith in God was Abraham. Abraham was known as the father of nations, but he was also known for having lots of faith in God. So much faith that he was called the father of the Abrahamic religions. Through his son Ishmael, he is the father of Islam and Muslim people. Through his second son Isaac, he is the father of Judaism and Christianity. Abraham was known for being a faithful man. Throughout his life, he learned multiple lessons that built up his faith. These are some of the lessons that can be learned from Abraham's experiences. Number 1. When things seem hopeless, you should wait on the Lord. Number 2. Don't take matters into your own hands without talking to God first. Number 3. When God tells you to move, you should move. The first lesson that built Abraham's faith is when Abraham did not wait for God's promise for a child. God had made Abraham a promise that he would have children, but he was old. More importantly, his wife was old, which meant she was probably barren. Instead of trusting in God, Abraham has allowed his wife to have a baby with their Egyptian handmaiden, Hagar. Abraham did not believe that God would bless him with children from Sarah. After Hagar had given birth to Ishmael, trouble took root in his household. None of the women were happy. Hagar wanted Ishmael to be treated like the firstborn, but Sarah knew that Isaac would be Abraham's heir. Again, Sarah convinced Abraham to send his own child and his mother away into the wilderness. Even though God allowed Abraham to do this, none of this would have happened if he had just waited for God's promise. This is the first lesson. When things seem hopeless, you should wait on the Lord. The second experience that Abraham learned from was when he and Sarah were visiting Egypt. The king of Egypt was known to like pretty ladies and take them from their husbands. Abraham became afraid. Instead of asking God for guidance, he told a half-truth that Sarah was his sister. When the Pharaoh heard that, he took Sarah into his palace as his wife. But God intervened and sent a plague on Egypt. When Pharaoh found out what Abraham had done, he sent Sarah and Abraham away. Abraham had risked his life and his wife's life and virtue because he did not check in with God for direction. That is the second lesson. Don't take matters into your own hands without talking to God first. Lastly, when God tells you to move, you should move. Abraham has seen God come through for him over and over again, building up his faith. But God wanted to test how great Abraham's faith truly was. So he told Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. This was the son Abraham had prayed for. What would he do? By this time, Abraham knew that God had planned out Abraham's life and knew what was best for him. So even though it would be a sin to kill, he knew God was directing him. So Abraham took Isaac to Mount Moriah as a sacrifice. Poor Isaac had no idea that he was going to be offered up. He even asked where the lamb was, and Abraham had to tell him that God would provide. Perhaps inside his heart, Abraham really hoped that God would change his mind. But if not, he would obey God's command. At the top of Mount Moriah, Abraham had to confess to Isaac that he was the sacrifice. We don't know how Isaac got onto the altar or how he reacted. We do know that before the knife plunged into Isaac's body, an angel grabbed Abraham's arm and told him, "No." God told Abraham, "Lay not on your hand upon your son, neither do him any harm. Now I know that you fear me because you do not hold your own son from me." Abraham looked, and behind him there was a ram caught in the bushes. And Abraham offered the ram up for an offering instead of Isaac. What would have happened if Abraham would not have done what he had asked? Perhaps the covenant would have been broken. This is the final lesson. When God asks you to do something, you should do it. He will provide the how. These are the lessons from Abraham that you should take with you. Number 1. When things seem hopeless, you should wait on the Lord. Number 2, don't take matters into your own hands without talking to God first. And number 3, when God tells you to move, you should move. We should learn from Abraham and trust like him, and God will take care of the rest.
The weight of it all, and what should break me, I'll end up.
Okay, please bow your heads for prayer. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and for keeping us safe throughout the night. Please help us to have a great day. Thank you for the start of a new Sabbath. God, please help us to have faith like Abraham, and please help us to just depend on you and rely on you for everything that we need. Thank you so much for your love and your mercy, and thank you for dying on the cross for us to save us for our sins. Please take us to heaven when you come again, and thank you so much for your love. Thank you for bringing our family together once again, and keep us safe until the next time we see each other. In your name I pray, amen.
Closer.